but glad to have everybody here, and we're going to get started just with some updates again on as you're learning things about career fair, what you're going to do, virtual platforms, things you've seen, and coming back and kind of where you're at with some of that. So, David, I know you were doing a lot of research on that. I'm going to kind of toss to you to lead us off today, if you will.
Well, I don't know that I have too much really to add, other than we have found that probably using an external platform is just not going to be a realistic budgetary scenario for us. We've looked at several of them. So, Simplicity has its own kind of one inside. Handshake, which is what we're on, is coming with a virtual career fair platform in July, maybe. So we are still kind of looking at that as a possibility. But I think for the most part, for our 3 fairs in the fall, we're going to do the Zoom rooms and have those work with our employer partners, and they would set up their own kind of Zoom rooms. We would just advertise it in that way.
David, how many employers do you get? How many are expecting this time?
Well, traditionally we're at 110-ish, give or take. So we usually have a strong employer presence. In candor, a lot of Western North Carolina is hospitality and tourism. So I don't know how much of that is going to get kind of eaten away. But I think that we will probably have, I'm anticipating 65-ish. Just based on hope, because I think we are. If we can get half, I'll be happy with that, and that counts graduate schools as well. So we have everything together. But for the fall, we're actually going to do a grad fair separately this year.
Duke just did a just-in-time fair with Zoom. Using the Zoom room, but it was only 20 employers.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you want to talk to somebody there to see how it went. It was from the Big Career Center, and they had 20 employers and 350 students signed up. So
wow.
They're getting ready to survey, but if you are interested in doing it that way and you want some feedback, we just did one.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I wonder how many of you others are planning to use Zoom versus doing one of the outside vendors or anything like that.
We have not made any decisions yet. Nadira is still working to try to figure out how to negotiate us re-signing the Brazen contract because of budget restrictions. Zoom is definitely on our list, as well as the Handshake possibility. I think we're all a little nervous about the Handshake kind of being the guinea pigs. So we would really like to have Brazen as our option. We just don't know if we're going to be able to renew the contract, because it would also require, based on some of the additions they've made and what we'll need it for, it will also be a bigger contract that we have to sign. So it will be a little bit of a heftier dollar amount, but we're looking at potentially splitting it with like Cameron School of Business and Campus Activities and Life, because there's going to be other groups on campus that are going to have to be using it, because it sounds like from the conversations Nadira's having that large gatherings are not going to be allowed. So, and UNC Wilmington hasn't made any decisions on anything yet. We don't know start date. The only thing we know is that we potentially have a graduation date in August, but we don't know anything else.
Okay.
Meredith has not made any final decisions for the fall yet either. We are still waiting, but our team did make the decision that we're going to go virtual for our fall fair. September 25th is the date that we're going to go with, and we similarly will probably use Zoom. We do not have the budget to look at an external site right now. I'm with you, Casey. Handshake is making me nervous. I don't want to wait until July to try to figure it out. So I think we're going to try Zoom in the way that David and some of the others have talked about using it. So.
Yeah, and I'd say Elon is similar thinking, that not Zoom necessarily, but WebEx or Teams or other platforms, utilizing those platforms rather than some other type of career fair, a platform that's meant for that. And, like we said, we're with Simplicity, but they're in doing the same thing as Handshake, trying to quickly come up with some kind of virtual career fair platform. And yeah, it makes us nervous because it's untested, and it will be quite a while before we'll be able to see it, right? Who knows? So yeah, we're thinking along those lines as well.
Do you guys have a date yet, Kristen? I was going to try to write some of this
So
down.
we have the date that we had set for our fall fair back at the beginning of the year before any of this. But with the idea of switching to, having everything be virtual, we're not necessarily thinking that we're going to have one day.
Yeah, that's what we're the same way.
Yeah, so that date is not necessarily relevant anymore, that we might spread things out over 2 weeks, something along those lines. And so have some smaller, sort of segment things a little bit and have them smaller and spread it out over maybe a few weeks even. So.
We're kind of doing the same thing at Western. We use Simplicity for a ad hoc virtual fair back in the spring just to get one done for our education folks. It went okay. Anybody who's on Simplicity, if you haven't seen the email, they are doing a webinar on, I think, June 4th for what they're thinking of doing for their virtual tool. So our kind of plan A is to go with Simplicity's new tool, and plan B is Zoom. We've talked to a couple other colleges that have used that to hear what their experience was. We've got the basketball arena booked for our normal big fair, still booked, but we've also discussed plan A is probably going to be breaking our career fair into 4 areas and having 4 virtual fairs spread out through the semester. And we'll do a part-time on-campus employment fair for any students that are on campus so that they can access just the on-campus employers. So there'll be one in-person, some kind of an event spread around the quad, I guess, and then 4 virtuals using either Simplicity or Zoom. So that's the plan for Cullowhee.
This is Adam at ECU. We have decided to go virtual for the fall for our 3 large fairs, our health and wellness fair, job and internship, and engineering and technology. We will also host a part-time job fair for on-campus employment, mainly focused on, again, just our on-campus departments. We, at this point, are considering Career Echo. It's not ideal. I think we're in a similar position as everyone else as we look at budgets, but I think we may go in that direction for those 3 events. At this point, we have not had it fully approved, but we're going in that direction.
So at NC State, we have finally decided on a vendor. We're going to probably go all virtual. For sure, the engineering career fair is going to be virtual, which is, it's going to be interesting. And probably the other fairs as well, or a hybrid with a small in-person. And we are going to actually go with Career Fair Plus. We already use Career Fair Plus, the app, and they have pivoted to a virtual platform as well, which looks good. It's a video-based virtual system. So what I like about it, we've thought about, because we're Simplicity, we've thought about doing Zoom, but I'm really worried, especially the size of the engineering career fair, about having to be the technology support for 300 employers is just not going to be feasible. So using Career Fair Plus will put the technology on them. The component. And so I think it looks like we're going to get a campus-wide contract, so we'll be able to do a number of events, which makes it a little bit more cost-effective in that way.
Sue asked a question here, and we can continue going around, but I want to put this out to the group too. Schools that usually invite other universities to attend their events, is that going to change when you go virtual? For UNC Charlotte, that's not our intention. We're still going to be open to, other people coming into the career fairs at least, but I'm curious to hear the rest of you.
So at least for us, for the engineering career fair, this is a huge shift. We are, because of security issues, because we won't be able to monitor folks if we just leave it open, we are going to do the fall one with, this is at least the last conversation we had. Things can always change, but we're going to only allow people with an ncsu.edu email to register, because you in Career Fair Plus you have to register as an employer and you have to register as a student. That said, though, the dean, I just talked to him last week, if everything goes well and we don't have any issues, what we were thinking of doing for the spring, and you know, again, this could change for the fall too, but we can allow other domains. So we could say, like, you know, ECU's domain or UNC Charlotte's domain or Wilmington's domain could be allowed as well. We're just not sure until we kind of see how registrations go and things like that. And it is unsure technology. So we're thinking that the fall we might have to limit it, and then we'll be open in the spring. The other fairs, I don't know. They don't have the volume of students, so they may be more open. But to open it, we're just concerned about the security issues. Like, anybody from anywhere could come in, unlike a physical fair where you can kind of keep an eye on who's coming in. So we're having those discussions.
Kelly, do you know if the UNCA program, the mechatronics engineering program, is going to be allowed in that fair, even though they'll have a UNCA email?
That's a great question, and I'm sure that they would be. So
Okay.
that's, you know, I mean, we can allow other domains in, and so that would be one we would absolutely need to run by the College of Engineering. I can't imagine they would say no. They're open to it. We just want to make sure that we keep it secure. So that would be, and I'll even make sure I bring that up. They don't have an ncsu.edu?
I don't think, I know that I think they just have a UNCA one, but I mean, they can get an NC State ID. So maybe they do have.
So they might have one. Okay, I'll check on that.
Okay.
I'll definitely, thank you for bringing that up, and I'll double check on that and be sure.
Kelly, I had that same question, but my students might have an NC State email address for the dual degree program. They probably have an NC State email, right?
I don't know. Let's check on that. Okay. And then we can get that. Then that's a non-issue. But if they don't, then again, we can allow certain domains, or we can give you Career Fair Plus a list, you know, to allow in.
Okay.
We're just concerned about like Gmails and other things like that.
Okay. Yeah. Keep us posted. That would be awesome.
Also, for any of you guys that are still potentially considering options, if you're interested in looking at Brazen, there is, I think they've gone live with their video chat option. And so they're having a webinar on Thursday at 1 o'clock. If you're interested, just put it in the chat and I can forward you the email to register so you can take a look at that one.
I know Brazen is having, I think, well, I have it on my calendar, a webinar from 2 to 3, like a panel or something on Thursday for like best practices. And I was going to do that anyway, just even without using Brazen's so expensive, we can't afford that. But if best practices panel of how you use a virtual career fair would be interesting.
Well, you know, I can speak a little bit to Brazen because I'm actually putting on a career fair with them on June 24th. It's a smaller event, only 30 employers, maximum and 200 students. And the cost, just so you have an idea, is about $5,000. When I went through this procurement process with them, they didn't have the video chat feature. So that obviously costs more money, which I will not be doing. But I can tell you from a standpoint of working with them, setting it up, the way it looks, the interface, I like it. It seems very professional. It's clean. It's user-friendly. So far, so good. You know, the question now will obviously be, you know, how many students will I actually get that attend? Right now, I've got 12 employers, but like everything else, you know, if I end up getting 30, which is the maximum spots, which I don't anticipate, how many also might back out at the end because things are changing so rapidly. But my experience with them has been good thus far. I did get a little demo of their video chat functionality, which is an added plus. I would definitely keep you all posted on how this event goes and my ultimate opinion of it when everything is said and done. But so far, I really don't have any complaints. It's very easy to navigate. I think it just looks mature and professional. and that's not the case with everything else that I've seen.
You're spending $5,000 for 30 employers?
$5,000, 30 employers. We had some money that we had to burn, which helped. So I've been encouraged to spend money, which it's not the case in my personal life. But we had to cancel a really big event for us, our Business and Computer Career Fair. And, I wasn't comfortable just leaving it as a canceled event, especially if I had funds that I could put towards it. But this is definitely, a one-time deal. I got it in right before the doors closed because now we're not able to spend anything. I use College Central Network at Wake Tech, and they're in the process of developing their own virtual career fair platform. So it'll remain to be seen how efficient that is. But it's nice to know that if I need this again in the future, that will be a resource that we already pay for. So I'm not going to have to go through the lengthy procurement process at Wake Tech.
Beth asked a good question about what are you charging for your fall virtual fairs? Have you thought about that, talked about it? I know that's still up for debate at UNC Charlotte, or up for discussion for us, as we're supposed to narrow down our options, I think this week or early next week.
Yeah, I'll jump to that real quickly because it's very easy. We don't charge for our career fairs at Wake Tech. We never have. I don't know how long that's going to last, especially right now, being in this circumstance. I enjoy that because for me, that's just one less barrier between the employers and the students, and I don't have to ask them for anything. But we'll see next year if that's still the same, because I anticipate with budgets being an issue, we might start doing that.
ECU, you're expensive. If 250 is half, I guess maybe that's normal. I think Elon's pretty cheap to attend.
What are y'all going to use, Beth? Have y'all decided yet?
Kristen's my colleague, so she chatted a little bit about this. We're not going to purchase a platform, but we are going to use either ones that we are comfortable with or ones that employers prefer. I think our approach is more, we hope that they will still engage with us this fall, so let's make it as easy as possible for them. And that leads me to another question for the group, which is, has anyone had any recent touch points with employers to gauge an understanding of what are they going to be allowed to even do this fall? I think we just assume they'll be able to engage virtually. And we're doing 100% virtual. We had a conversation on our team similar to someone else where we thought about hosting some in person, and then the rest, the majority, would be virtual, but we've decided to go fully virtual.
I'm getting the email out probably early next week, Beth, just to all the people that have attended previously in the fall and spring semesters, just to gauge with a small Qualtrics survey. Do you have fall plans yet? Will you be traveling? Are you open to virtual events? Just so we can kind of get some percentages. Based on the conversations Nadir is having, like I said, it sounds like large social gatherings aren't going to be allowed, but we still haven't been able to pull the trigger to say we're going virtual. I don't know why. What is our other option? But we're going to really, I think if we can try to get some feedback too from our specific employers, it might help them move the needle a little bit on the higher up end.
This is Dana at Wake. We pulled together a focus group of probably 25 employers about a month ago, just to see how they were, what was going on, to gauge them, just to get some ideas. And we did a very quick poll last week. We got another call coming up with them in another week, and just ask them, it's going to be virtual. We know Wake's life is going to be virtual in the fall. Would you be interested, or which of these do you think you might be interested in? A virtual career fair, virtual interviews, virtual coffee chats, virtual networking nights, the virtual info session, which is you alone, not with anybody else. The majority of them are saying they want their virtual info sessions. Fewer of them are interested in the virtual career fairs. So I anticipate a lot of individualized events in the fall, which is going to be a scheduling nightmare because there's only so many hours in a day. So we're just going to see how it plays out.
Well, and I think that's the interesting piece too, because we don't know, even if they have the options to do things, like I don't know that there's going to be hiring. That's where I think the biggest thing comes in. I mean, just having been a recruiter, I mean, I know how heavily the select group normally would be hiring right now, and they haven't been doing any since like March, because they just wanted to keep, I mean, the talent acquisition team there is doing in business development and sales right now. Like a lot of them are doing that. They've still been doing a little bit, but most of their focus has been on that piece and, you know, trying to keep a pipeline going, but not doing a whole lot of like active bringing people on.
Casey, we've been having that same conversation at Meredith, and we're talking about, I can't remember if I said this on the last call or not, but kind of doing a rebrand of our fall fairs. So it's generally been an internship expo. So we don't know what we're going to call it yet, but it won't be called that. But we want to make it more kind of educational event / fair / kind of informational interview type setup to try to manage expectations for students and the employers. Most of the employers I've talked to have said that they, you know, recognize that they need to be engaged. They've got to continue to build their brand on campus. But if the hiring's not happening, how can we do that and make sure we're not misleading students? So we're working on kind of refiguring what to call it, how to brand it, how to market it. But we've been worried about that too, because if people aren't hiring, you know, are they going to come, and what will that say to our students? So trying to rethink it a little bit.
Yeah, and I will share that I was on some calls last week with a representative from Cisco and Truist, and both of those employers mentioned that they will actually host their own independent career fairs. So starting to hear more of that as well, and which is again interesting, and it does start to, you know, play into this idea of what the fall will look like. Of, you know, even if you do go virtual and you price it right, if an employer hosts their own events, one, how do you promote that, right, and then still promote your own events? I don't know. It'll be very interesting.
Well, we're already seeing that pop in Handshake now. You know, all these webinars and things.
Oh, yeah.
They can do it for free. They can do it as a mass post, one event for the masses, and doesn't cost them a dime. Besides what they're paying for the Handshake platform.
I can just share something we discussed today at Elon on our team. We were in the process of determining everything Jane just referenced. What's the branding? What are the event names? What are the dates, times? What are the options that we are providing to the employers? Kind of letting them more self-select between the different offerings that we are going to provide, and kind of send out a menu of, here's what we have in mind. Here's how you register for each individual one. So Dana, yes, the logistical nightmare, but that's why Kristen Walker is the guru on simplicity, and I don't have to do any of it. And I think it'll be interesting because it's kind of twofold. We, of course, want to provide as many opportunities this fall for our students to engage with employers. But if some of our events that we think sound good and make sense, if they don't come to fruition because we only have 3 employers that are interested, I mean, we can just not have them. We're not putting a lot of stake in, you know, from a cost perspective, since we're not using any platform that we would be paying for. So I do think one benefit of this is we're staying flexible, and we recognize that employers, we can't require them to participate, of course, and we want them to self-select into the events. But hearing that comment made me think of this, how we just need to be prepared for if employers aren't interested in the ones that we're offering, and be okay with just not offering it.
I think that's the other thing, and I wanted to see if, I know we've all in somewhere or another reached out to our employer bases and stuff like that, but has any of your teams or maybe your counterparts in the offices talked about student response to this stuff? Or, you know, with all their classes or some of their classes still being online and everything kind of going to that, are they going to be sort of worn out from that experience and still want to engage like this? Have any of you got any feedback about that?
We actually threw that around in a conversation this morning, you know, the virtual fatigue that they're going to be in, because there's going to, you know, Wake's throwing around ideas. There'll be some in-person classes. There'll be some totally virtual. There'll be some hybrid. How do you keep the kids from just getting totally exhausted with it, especially if you got all this employer stuff involved? I don't know the answer. I mean, I don't know if there is an answer. It's going to have to be some creative programming, that's for sure, because you're going to do a program virtually to get them involved virtually. I mean, so it's going to be crazy.
Come to the webinar on how to attend
Yeah.
webinars.
It's almost one of those moments where, you know, being at UNC Wilmington, we're technically part of student affairs. I don't know how it works at every other university, but where you wish you could work more closely with academic affairs and like get your programming into a syllabus for the fall, but feel like, you know, I didn't say that out loud. Can we not record that part? But it would help in regards to their attendance and them being more engaged, because we know if it becomes from faculty or from classroom participation, they're more likely to do it, but that's a whole nother conversation.
As someone who's on the academic affairs side, though, saying the dream of that actually ever coming to fruition does not exist. Like, yes, that's the idea of like, oh, you must have all the integration with faculty.
Yeah.
No.
I was like, we got a new provost. I was like, is it too early to send an introductory email with all of the things that I would like to see? Like, along with my letter of resignation, because that would probably have to follow.
Lisa Vetti, who's the executive director at Wake, was on the meeting I was on this morning, and he said that he's on a group of executive directors of career centers, and they had, I think, a call last week, and he said a lot of people are talking about virtual counseling too. That, you know, to have, you know, it's going to be hard to do one-on-one counseling and try to do social distancing, and so that was a hot topic among a bunch of directors. Was it'll be social, you know, social distancing, career counseling, along with everything else too. So.
I just wanted to add to Dana and Jay's point. We actually did a survey at Queens because we had to scrap all of our in-person events that we were going to host for later in the spring and turn them into virtual events. And the students actually really appreciated the virtual events. We had a significant group of students come to each event as well, probably more so than what we would have had they have been on campus. So, Dana, to your point, the research that's out there on fatigue, but also there's also the research that is the flexibility, especially for students in graduate programs. So I think there has to be a balance in part of that equation.
At Elon, we know the accounting majors will be ready to engage in whatever platform we are providing for the engagement to happen. We always have an accounting meet and greet every fall. It's our first of our big 5 fall events. And so we're also being cognizant of the populations of our students that we know will be available and prepared and interested. And so we're having honest conversations about, we have a sales meet and greet every fall, and that one's less confirmed that people will show up. So we're having conversations about what do we do in that case where the accounting population is, we can count on them. The sales meet and greet, is it worth hosting that in its old fashioned virtually if we don't know what the outcome will be? And so of course, a lot of unknowns, but we are discussing those and what populations might we be able to count on more. And I don't want to do it by major, but the accounting students will come.
Speaking of accounting students, Beth, that made me think, because we do the big, like those are always the first ones that want to start booking their on-campus interviews, which we've already started having a lot of those requests. Have you all made this? I mean, at this point, we don't even know when we're going back to the office, but when you say you're moving everything virtual, are you guys doing only virtual interviews so nobody's coming into your office as well?
Yes, I feel, right, Kristen? Yeah, we're not inviting anyone to campus for interviews, info sessions, or our fairs. But those would be, I think, provided on our menu of options to say, register for what is of interest to you. And I guess interviews would be one.
We're holding interviews where you can do them virtually, or if you want to come to our offices, we can maintain social distance in the rooms that we have available. We went and measured them out and all that. So we're going to give the option to them. The only other on-campus option thing we're letting people do is recruiting tables that are right out in front of our building, because we've got a splatter screen and, you know, plexiglass and a tent and all that. So if you want to come and like have material and let people see you and talk to them, we can do that. But info sessions, virtual meetups, all the other stuff are all virtual, and that's what we're putting out to folks. So, yeah.
Jay, it's so funny that you have like I'm just picturing like the screen and the tent and everything. And what we've decided to do for anything that's in person is just turn the table the other direction. So it's
the
length
long
of
way.
The table.
Yeah, that
Like,
that
that's
was
60.
Patrick, man. I was like, we just turned the table around, but he got all elaborate with it. But, yeah.
Something else I'll throw out at Elon, we discussed there's not really a rush to market our events. First of all, we don't know what they're going to look like. Second of all, we don't know what employers will actually be registering for anything that we are providing as an option. And now I'm more concerned since employers are going to be hosting their own events, but also just being mindful to the fatigue that we do not need to rush to share this information with our students when their main focus is, what is my fall going to look like at all? And Elon is committed, our president is committed to returning in person in the fall, but just not sure what that's going to look like. So our team's on the same page that there is no immediate rush to share any of this marketing with our student body about fall events.
Yeah, we're not putting out anything to the student body. It's more just trying to communicate to the employers right now of here's what our options are looking like. And that's all based off, again, that survey that we put out a month ago where the feedback we got was we may be able to travel, we may not. We like these things. So we built it around that. So basically what I'm saying is fall recruiting options are going to be blindfolded, spun around twice, and then hit it directly on the red because that's what's important.
You guys may have already thought of this, but when we were meeting with Career Fair Plus about the virtual career fairs, they actually brought this up, and we probably would have gotten there eventually. But having virtual rooms for the Career Center and for the employer relations team for students and employers to pop into during the event if they have questions or concerns or need some coaching. So that's something that I hadn't put like on my best practices list, and now I will. And they're going to be able to provide us with that kind of technology, but we could use Zoom or something else too if we needed to. So that's just something to think about for for the fairs, to have those types of resources, just like almost like you would have those additional resource tables when you actually have a physical fair.
Something I will share in addition to that, Kelly, which is a great idea. We are planning to staff any virtual information session that employers sign up for with. Is that what you were saying?
No, that's a good idea.
So to ask one of our staff members to be present in that virtual space, and that's because Elon parents that I've worked with over the past few months, and also employers that have hosted events on their own platforms, have said how nice it is to have kind of a moderator that's not affiliated with them, but affiliated with our university to just help guide the chat box or help step in if needed. And so we are keeping that at the forefront because we think it'll make the whole experience better for everyone.
Yeah, and sometimes there's like, I've been on some and there's just small technical issues. And so at least you can be there to talk to the students and say, I'm sure the employer is going to be here in just a second. They don't always, just like everything else, go off without technical issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try really hard, especially with the engineering, to not let employers do information sessions that aren't coming to the career fair. I think we're just going to have to do that because otherwise we're going to be completely saturated with information sessions. And so I hate to be that like way about it, but I might have to be, so I'm kind of leaning towards that. We kind of do that anyway because in the in-person, we really want to prioritize. We want our students, because that's going to be part of the process, really, as they're doing their homework about companies and getting to know people before this event that we're building up for, where they're, going to be interacting with the employers on these 2 days. So we really might, at least that's all we're going to really push out to the students. Employers can do what they want, but they need us to market it for them. So, it's kind of like we're going to have to all like be in this together during this time because, we need employers to come to our career fairs and pay their fees, or we're not going to survive.
In regards to that, Kelly, that was a question that I kind of had. So when I came in to the Career Center, and again, I don't know when these policies were created. We all know Tom was there for a long time, but he was very adamant, like in Handshake, that we did not approve remote job opportunities. And I was like, well, I think there's a big difference if like it's a position and the company's based in China and the job sits in China and like we don't have any information about it, or if it's like Google hiring someone to be on their sales team, but they sit in Raleigh. But, you know, so I was like, and I had said to Emily, like, I think we just need to be more like digging in a little bit to the role before we just deny it just because it's a remote opportunity. Obviously now, I mean, there are companies that are literally saying, like I saw today on LinkedIn, Square is basically like, hey, we might be opening offices back up, but our employees, we've seen that this works. They can work remote for as long. So did any of you guys have policies about remote work? Are you obviously looking into changing those because of all this? Like, what's the thought process there?
I mean, we immediately pivoted. We had to, and it's actually a yes or no question now on every job posting. Is this a remote job? Yes or no. So students can search by remote, and we feel like this is going to just be with us from this point forward. So of course, we're still really vetting the jobs and really looking at them and making sure, you know, what do they mean by remote? And it's the remote.
Yes.
And full-time jobs we treat a little bit differently than internships, actually a lot differently than internships. But even with internships, we're seeing so many remote. So it is now, I can't believe we like in literally one day we were like, that is now a required question. Is this remote, yes or no? Or virtual?
And I think Handshake, I don't know, can you make some of the questions for job postings? Emily handles a lot of that. So is there an option to make certain things required, or they just have a simple form? Am I correct?
They've got the form. You can't make anything, but it is a question in there about remote.
Yes. Okay. There is a question, but you can't change their forms.
Nope.
Yeah.
You can add a survey on certain things, like on fairs and whatnot, but not for individual postings, I don't think.
We use Simplicity, so you can customize everything to, which is a double-edged sword, but
you can customize everything. You have to customize.
You have to customize
So,
everything, and you have to
that's-
monitor it. But yeah. So, but
That's really good stuff. We're here right at the 2:45-ish mark or whatever. So if anybody's got any final questions or anything, I know other people have got other meetings to head to, so we can wrap up. Any last things we want to chat about before we move forward?
I just wanted to, after this, I know we always say it at the end, do we want to continue to have these meetings on Mondays at 2:00? So the next one would be June 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good with that?
Does that work for everybody?
I just want to say I appreciate this group.
Me too.
Also, does anyone else still get Catherine Getz invites?
All the time.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't alone in that. But if you are newer to the group, or if you don't really know the conception of the group, my understanding was Catherine kind of took the lead on that, and she's now left UNC Greensboro for a job in Washington State. But these have been really helpful. We didn't know it was coming, but it's kind of okay that we didn't have this group meet as regularly within the last year, but now it's really pertinent. So all for it. Thank you.
So what I'll do is I will put out a calendar thing that's just every 2 weeks through the summer for everybody. So you'll have them. And as Casey and her group send me updated Zoom links, I'll just update the individual meeting times if that works for everybody.
I think if I send you one Zoom link,
you just use the same one over and over.
Use the same one over and over.
We'll try that then. So I'll just set it up, and then when you send me the Zoom link, I'll add everybody to the list. And
I'll send you my personal meeting ID one, so we should just be able to use it every week.
Yeah, because if you just launch it, then it's good to go. Yeah, that's exactly what to do. So perfect. So very cool. So let's keep them going through July. For sure. And so that'll give us 1, 2, 3, 4 more for sure. And
Beth, I got registered for the ER Summit, just so you know. So I'm excited to be able to
Oh, yes. If anyone has any questions or if you have not yet registered, the Employer Relations Summit is virtual on June 24 and 25. We've put all the breakout sessions in slots, so we have a call today after this, but more information is coming on that. And it's $25 to attend if you are a SOACE member, and it's $50 to attend if you are not a SOACE member. Thank you, Casey.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to that. That's going to be great, Beth. So, well, once again, everybody, thank y'all for joining in and participating and for sharing ideas and stuff and working together. It's always good to be around, and everybody, if you're in a rainy place, stay dry and hope for some sun.
And Jay, the only other thing I would ask is in that email chain, if people are getting good resources, we're probably all in the same emails, but like webinars or TED Talks or anything that you feel like is relevant, sharing those things, because, you know, keeping your calendars full is also good during this time.
Yes,
So
yes,
I've been
indeed.
doing a lot of those.
If you got good stuff like that, and remember, there's that shared doc too that everybody has access to. If you want to throw something on there, so we can definitely talk about it. Please put stuff on that because it makes it easy to facilitate all this kind of stuff. So, all right. Well, everybody have a great afternoon. Thank y'all. So y'all be well.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.